My name is Mia Torres. I'm 30 years old and I've been a flight attendant for 8 years. I work international routes, mostly transatlantic flights between New York and Europe. London, Paris, Rome, Barcelona. I've seen those cities from 30,000 feet more times than I can count. It's a good job. The pay is decent, the benefits are great, and I genuinely love traveling, even if most of that travel is spent serving drinks and dealing with turbulence. I met my husband Ryan 5 years ago. He was a passenger on one of my flights, JFK to London. He was in business class, traveling for work. Consulting job, he said. He was polite, charming, made conversation when I brought him drinks. When we landed, he asked if I'd like to get coffee sometime. I normally don't date passengers, but something about him felt different, so I said yes. We got married 3 years ago. Small wedding, just close family and friends. Ryan's job required a lot of travel, which worked well with my schedule. We were both gone frequently, so when we were home together, we appreciated it more. Or at least that's what I told myself. Ryan worked for a major consulting firm. Big accounts, international clients, the kind of work that meant he was constantly flying somewhere. London 1 week, Frankfurt the next, Singapore after that. I understood. My job involved travel too. We made it work. We'd coordinate our schedules when possible, try to be home at the same time, plan vacations around our availability. About 2 years ago, Ryan suggested I manage his frequent flyer account. He'd accumulated a ton of miles through work travel, and he never had time to keep track of them. "You're better at this stuff," he said. "You know the airline systems, you can book us trips with the points. Make use of them." It made sense. I did know the systems. I could get us better deals, better upgrades, better redemption values. So I logged into his account, linked it to my employee portal, started managing his miles. It was actually kind of fun. Planning future trips, finding good deals, making the most of his work travel. Over the next 2 years, I'd check his account periodically, see how many miles he'd earned, where he'd flown, plan what trips we could take. The miles kept accumulating. Ryan traveled constantly. His job seemed to be getting busier. More international trips, longer stays, bigger projects. He'd be gone 2 weeks at a time sometimes. Come home exhausted, sleep for a day, then head out again. I didn't think much of it. That's consulting. That's what high-level business travel looks like. And honestly, I was traveling too. Long-haul flights to Europe 3 or 4 times a month. We were both busy, both tired, both trying to make the most of our time together when we could. Then, about 3 months ago, I was planning a vacation for us. We hadn't taken a real trip together in over a year. Just us, no work, somewhere nice. I thought maybe Greece. Ryan had talked about wanting to go there. I logged into his frequent flyer account to see how many miles we had, start looking at flights. That's when I noticed something odd. The account showed he'd taken 47 international flights in the past 2 years. 47. That seemed like a lot, even for consulting work. I started looking at the flight log more carefully. The dates, the destinations, the patterns. 32 of those 47 flights were weekend flights. Friday evening departures, Monday morning returns. Weekend business travel. Business travel doesn't happen on weekends. Consultants fly out Monday morning, fly back Friday night. They don't take weekend business trips. That's personal travel time. But these weren't just any weekend flights. They were romantic destinations. Paris, Venice, Barcelona, Santorini, Amalfi Coast. The kind of places you go with someone you love, not the kind of places you go for consulting work. My heart started racing. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe these were work trips that happened to fall on weekends. Maybe the clients wanted weekend meetings. Maybe there were conferences. Maybe I was overthinking it. But then I saw something else. Each of those 47 flights showed 2 bookings, both in Ryan's name, but different confirmation numbers. Like someone had booked 2 seats, both for Ryan Morgan, but on separate reservations. Why would someone do that? I have access to our airline's internal systems. It's part of my job. I can look up passenger information, check-in data, booking details. I shouldn't use it for personal reasons, but I couldn't help myself. I needed to know. I pulled up the booking details for one of the weekend flights, Paris, 6 months ago. The reservation showed 2 passengers, Ryan Morgan and Isla Reed, booked together, seated together, checked in together. I felt sick. I pulled up another flight, Venice, 8 months ago. Same thing, Ryan Morgan and Isla Reed, together. I checked every single one of those 47 flights. Every single one showed the same pattern. Ryan Morgan and Isla Reed, traveling together, international destinations, romantic cities, weekend trips, for 2 years. 2 years while I was working transatlantic flights, serving passengers, being away from home, Ryan was taking someone named Isla Reed on romantic European getaways, using his work miles. The miles I'd been managing, planning to use for us, for our vacations together. I searched our internal system for Isla Reed. She flew frequently, always business or first class, often with Ryan, sometimes alone. She had her own frequent flyer account with our airline, had status, traveled regularly. I found her on social media. She worked at a marketing firm in Manhattan. She was beautiful. Lots of photos from her travels, Paris, Venice, Barcelona, the same cities Ryan had supposedly been visiting for work. But in her photos, the locations looked like vacation spots, romantic dinners, wine by the coast, sunset photos, not business meetings. I went back further in her feed, found photos from 2 years ago. There he was, Ryan, in the background of a photo from Paris. You could barely see him, but I recognized his watch, his posture. He was there with her 2 years ago when he'd told me he was in Frankfurt for a client meeting. I couldn't breathe. My husband had been having an affair for 2 years, taking her on trips around Europe, romantic weekends while I worked flights, while I trusted him, while I managed his frequent flyer account that was funding his affair. I wanted to confront him immediately, call him, scream, demand answers. But I didn't. I needed to think, to plan, to figure out how to handle this. I checked my own work schedule. I was assigned to a flight in 3 days, Friday night, JFK to Barcelona. And when I cross-referenced it with Ryan's frequent flyer account, my stomach dropped. He had a booking on that same flight with Isla Reed, both in business class. Ryan had told me he'd be traveling this weekend. Client emergency in Madrid, he'd said. Sorry, I know we were supposed to have the weekend together. I'd been disappointed, but understanding. Of course, work came up. Of course, he had to go. I'd even said I'd be working a flight to Barcelona this weekend, so at least we'd both be busy. But he wasn't going to Madrid for work. He was going to Barcelona with Isla on a flight I was working. I didn't tell him I knew. I acted completely normal, told him I hoped his Madrid trip went well, kissed him goodbye when he left for the airport Friday evening. Then I got ready for my own flight. I arrived at JFK 3 hours before departure, went through the usual pre-flight routine, checked in, reviewed the manifest, prepared the cabin. And there they were on the passenger list, Ryan Morgan and Isla Reed, seats 3A and 3B, business class, right at the front of my section. I told my supervisor I needed to handle the business class cabin for this flight. She didn't question it. I'm senior crew. I can request sections. She just assumed I wanted the better tips that come with business class service. Passengers started boarding. I stood at the entrance, greeting everyone with a smile, watching, waiting. And then I saw them, Ryan and Isla, walking up the jet bridge together, laughing. He was carrying her bag, she was holding his arm. They didn't notice me at first, too busy with each other. I watched them settle into their seats, watched Ryan help Isla with her bag, watched them order champagne, watched them toast each other like they didn't have a care in the world. Then Ryan looked up, saw me. His face went completely white. He froze. I could see the panic in his eyes, the calculation, the attempt to figure out how to explain this. I smiled at him, a professional flight attendant smile. "Good evening, Mr. Morgan. Welcome aboard. Can I get you anything before departure?" He couldn't speak, just stared at me. Isla noticed his reaction, looked at me. "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," I said, still smiling. "Just making sure our passengers are comfortable. We'll be departing shortly." I walked away, continued greeting other passengers, prepared the cabin for takeoff. The whole time I could feel Ryan's eyes on me, could see him trying to get my attention, but I ignored him, stayed professional, did my job. We took off on schedule. Once we reached cruising altitude, I started the beverage service, worked my way through the business class cabin, other passengers first, saving Ryan and Isla for last. When I finally got to their row, Ryan tried to speak. "Mia, I can explain." "Would you care for anything to drink?" I asked Isla, ignoring him. She looked confused, glanced between us. White wine, please?" "Excellent choice." I poured her wine, handed it to her, then turned to Ryan. "And for you, sir." "Mia, please, we need to talk." "I'm working, Mr. Morgan. I'll bring you a scotch. That's what you usually order, isn't it, on all your flights?" He couldn't answer. Isla was starting to look uncomfortable. "How do you know what he orders?" she asked me. "Oh, I know a lot about Mr. Morgan's travel habits. For instance, I know this is his 48th international flight in 2 years. I know 33 of those flights have been on weekends. I know he's flown to Barcelona, Paris, Venice, Rome, Santorini, and the Amalfi Coast, all with you, Ms. Reed. Isn't that right?" Isla's eyes went wide. "How do you—" "I manage Mr. Morgan's frequent flyer account. I'm also his wife." The color drained from Isla's face. She turned to Ryan. "Your wife? You said you were divorced." "Divorced?" I laughed. It came out harsher than I intended. "No, Miss Reed, very much still married. 3 years next month, though I suppose he's been busy planning other trips instead of our anniversary." Other passengers were starting to notice the tension, starting to turn around. I lowered my voice. "I've managed his miles for 2 years, booked trips I thought we'd take together someday, had no idea he was using them to fund a 2-year affair." Ryan stood up. "Mia, let me explain. This isn't—" "Sit down, sir," I said firmly. "We're at 38,000 feet. You're not going anywhere. Neither am I. So why don't you both enjoy your flight to Barcelona? The flight you booked with miles earned on business travel. Miles I've been carefully tracking, planning to use for our vacation to Greece. Guess we won't be needing those now." I walked to the front of the cabin, picked up the PA microphone. My hand was shaking, but my voice was steady. "Good evening, passengers. This is your lead flight attendant, Mia Torres, speaking." The cabin went quiet, everyone listening. "I want to apologize in advance if my service isn't up to our usual standards tonight. I'm having a bit of a difficult evening. You see, I just discovered that 2 of our business class passengers, seats 3A and 3B, have been having an affair for the past 2 years. One of them is my husband. The other didn't know he was married." Gasps throughout the cabin, everyone turning to look at row 3. Ryan had his head in his hands. Isla was crying. "I found out because I managed his frequent flyer account. 48 international trips in 2 years, 33 of them on weekends, all to romantic destinations, all with her, while I've been working flights like this one, being away from home, trusting him. The miles he earned on business travel, he's been using them to pay for romantic getaways with his mistress." I could see passengers recording on their phones now. I didn't care. The really ironic part? I'm working this flight, this exact flight, the one they booked for their romantic Barcelona weekend. So I get to serve them drinks, watch them hold hands, see them live out this lie in real time, while wearing this uniform, while doing my job, while being 38,000 feet in the air with nowhere to go for the next 7 hours. I paused, took a breath. So if my champagne pours aren't quite perfect tonight, if I'm a little slow with the beverage service, I hope you'll understand. I'm processing the fact that my marriage is over while serving mini pretzels at cruising altitude. I hung up the PA. The cabin was completely silent. Then someone started clapping, then another person, then more. Within seconds, most of the cabin was applauding. I walked back through the aisle. Passengers were giving me sympathetic looks. A few patted my shoulder as I passed. One woman handed me her business card. "I'm a divorce lawyer," she said. "Call me when we land." I avoided row 3 for the rest of the flight. Other crew members handled that section. I worked the rest of the cabin, finished the service, did my job. Passengers were kind, tipped well. A few offered to testify if I needed witnesses. When we landed in Barcelona, Ryan tried to talk to me. I walked past him. Isla tried to apologize. I ignored her too. I had a return flight in 48 hours. I went to my hotel, slept, and processed everything. Ryan called probably 50 times, left voicemails explaining, apologizing, begging. I didn't listen to them. I called that divorce lawyer instead, started the process before we even flew back to New York. The story went viral. Someone had recorded my PA announcement, posted it online. Within days, it had millions of views. Flight attendant exposes cheating husband mid-flight was trending everywhere. People had opinions. Some said I was a hero. Others said I was unprofessional. Some said I should have handled it privately. Others said he deserved the public humiliation. My airline called me in for a meeting. I thought I was fired, but they just wanted to confirm what happened, make sure I was okay. They gave me a week off, paid, said they understood it was an unprecedented situation. The video had actually brought them positive attention. People praised the airline for supporting me. Ryan moved out of our apartment. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. He lost the argument about splitting his frequent flyer miles. The judge agreed they were marital assets. I got half, plus our shared property, plus my freedom. Isla sent me a long email a few months after everything happened, apologized profusely, said she really hadn't known he was married, that he'd shown her fake divorce papers, that she'd ended things the moment she found out. I believed her. She was a victim too, in a different way. I wrote back, told her I didn't blame her. She'd been lied to just like I had. A year later, I'm doing okay. Still a flight attendant, still working international routes. But now when I fly, I don't wonder where my husband is or who he's with. I don't manage his miles or plan trips we'll never take. I just do my job. And sometimes passengers recognize me, the flight attendant from that viral video. They're usually kind about it, tell me I'm glad I got out, that I deserved better. I learned something from all this. Trust, but verify. Love doesn't mean blind faith, and sometimes access to frequent flyer accounts can save you years of wasted time. If I hadn't been managing his miles, I might never have known, might stay married to someone living a double life. The 48 international flights, 33 weekend trips, 2 years of lies, all documented in a frequent flyer account. Digital breadcrumbs leading straight to the truth. Ryan thought he was being clever, using work miles for personal trips, keeping everything separate. But he forgot that I had access, that I knew how to read the records, that I worked for the airline he was flying. He thought he could keep 2 lives separate. Turns out, at 38,000 feet, there's nowhere to hide. And when you're married to a flight attendant, eventually she's going to be working your flight. Eventually, you're going to get caught. And eventually, everyone on that plane is going to know exactly what you did. That PA announcement was probably unprofessional, definitely unconventional, but it was honest. And after 2 years of being lied to, honesty felt like the only option. Ryan took my trust, my time, my belief in our marriage. The least I could do was take his dignity on a transatlantic flight. People ask if I regret it. The public call-out, the viral video, the spectacle. Honestly, no. He made the spectacle of our marriage by living a double life. I just made it visible. And if that video helps even one person pay closer attention to their partner's travel patterns, then maybe some good came from it. The frequent flyer miles told the whole story, where he'd been, who he'd been with, and how long it had lasted, all there in the digital records waiting for someone to notice. I just happened to have access, and when I finally put the pieces together, I made sure everyone knew, especially the 2 people who'd been lying to me for 2 years. They got their romantic Barcelona weekend, but they got it with a side of public exposure at 38,000 feet. Seems like a fair trade to me.